Hello, my name is Garx82 and welcome to my final episode of my GregBlock series. It's taken me a little while to finally get this final base tour done. I had some touch-ups to do that I wanted to get before I finished. So let's go ahead and just see what we have here. Now I'm going to start with my original base. I have a few things over here. But I would like to just quickly kind of go over what we have in this side. And if I go down here, all the way down here, we can see, for one thing, we have our squid farm. Plenty of squid in there for ink. And all the way down here at the bottom, I have my mob farm, which is two sides with trapdoors in the middle, and that leads down here into some witch water and some spikes. And as we can see, plenty of drops. We got all sorts of stuff: coal, rotten flesh, bone, ender pearl. So yeah, I never did hook this up to my ME system because I ended up building a new mob farm and using industrial foregoing for that one, and we will see that in a second. I built the mob farm down at a low level to increase the spawns of mobs because I felt this one, my original, very first one, they didn't spawn very much in. Now I do have one engine here on this side of my base, and that is the diesel engine, which is only outputting 2000 EU per tick, but it is filling up a LUV battery buffer with 4, so I'm outputting LUV power. But I don't really use these anymore. A couple things over here, such as I have one laser engraver. It's only one little pattern that is used over here, but I did not feel like crafting a new one and putting it on the other side. This is where all my water comes from, as we can see. I have all my advanced HV water pumps. They're pumping out, or they're automatically outputting into these ultimate pipes, which are going into the black hole tank. As we can see, it's completely full, and I have this kind of going off into a couple different parts of my base. One of which is my high pressure steam boiler, which is outputting steam to a tank right here. I didn't rebuild any of this in the new base. I just left it over here and attached a ME interface or a storage bus. On this side, I also have a setup to produce another rack, and that is set for a certain amount, so 1,000. Once it goes under 1,000, it'll produce more netherrack for me. Over here we have a fisher, which produces some fish, which combined with a dark room, which I have a dark room in here, and a mob crusher, produces some protein here, liquid protein, in the protein reactor here. And that powers this protein generator, which produces, I can't remember the exact amount, I think it's like 300 RF per tick or something like that. I can't remember, but that is powering my RF machines on this side of base. If I just squeeze over here really quick, I do have a wither spawner right here. So I have my wither skulls, and this will automatically place soul sand if I in there, and it'll spawn in here the withers, which will be killed by the mob crusher, and I can get my nether stars here. Moving over here, I have a mob spawn room for specific mobs. You can do wither skeletons, slimes, blaze, blitzes, chickens, and sheep are that I found most useful, and Enderman. So quite a few useful items or mobs to spawn for the different drops that are needed. And then I have a tank of essence here, and I have it all turned off for now. Now this is my oil setup for producing oil, and it is turned off right now, but I will actually just turn this on. It is set for when I have 20 million raw oil in my ME system. It will do this automatically, but I'll just manually turn it on for now. As we can see, the soul sand is coming down, being melted down, and put in the tank right there. What else do we have under here? I have my ME quantum ring over here, so this is connected obviously to my main base. I have, how many channels going into this? I only have about 6 channels going into this, so pretty small. I just have a dense energy cell just for a little bit of backup, and I have a protein generator just in case I need to jumpstart the quantum ring. On this side, I also have all my interfaces with all my patterns in them. I did not move this to the new boost when I built it. So I have 32 channels over here, and I have all my crafting CPUs over here. Most of them are just 64K, but I have a very large one for my ultimate batteries mostly. I need a large computer, so I have 6 64K crafting storage things on this one. Alright, so let's go upstairs and look at the last little bit of stuff that I have up here. Just basic little food farm. Didn't find food to be too important, so I'm still eating baked potatoes at the very end. I have a little patch of grass here for spawning in some mobs using bait, like pigs, or I think I put rabbits I needed. I have a animal rancher over here set up to shear sheep, and these are all actually dyed black for my for some reason. There it is. Sometimes it doesn't pop up, but there is my wool. I have 6,000 wool. And this is my egg farm for all my chickens. So basically they're just dropping the eggs on the hoppers, and the eggs go all the way in here and then into my ME system. And I did notice sometimes they glitch through these hoppers, which is kind of why I built a room down here to catch the chickens. Otherwise they would fall in the void. Not sure if there's any way to solve that, but yeah. I got a couple farms here. I think that was wheat, but oh, that's right. I don't have a planter. I just have the gatherer, so if I needed wheat or whatever it was, I would just plant it and it would harvest when it was done, but it wouldn't replant it. This is mostly for my sugarcane. So I have 6,506 sugar, and that is needed in one of the recipes for circuits, which is the reason I did that. A couple spruce trees for my wood. I still have this very basic dirt producing thing here. I just put whatever I need in here. I've hardened fluid up in there somehow. So leaves or whatever, and that would produce dirt, and I have some just random stuff in here. I have a couple chests of stuff I don't use anymore, and I didn't feel like clogging up my ME with more items. I have a few random machines over here that didn't really use anymore. So I didn't, well, I used still, but I didn't feel like rebuilding them all. So I just kind of left them over here. They're still used, but they're IV insane voltage power. But yeah, basic cobble gen. This is producing sand and gravel, which is got a storage bus, so my ME system can see it. And that brings us to my witch water production, which is quite large, as we can see. And the water from on below is being pumped in, turning into witch water, and then it is being pumped out into my tanks here, which is being pumped into these barrels, which is got sand being put into them, producing the soul sand. But I'm kind of full, so I'm not running at 100% speed, but as we can see, I'm producing quite a bit of soul sand, which is fueling my oil production underneath. And I'm actually going to switch that off again. Just wanted to turn it on so we can see. Alright, so that's back to being automatic again. Alright, so let's kind of head over to the other base. I do have a viaduct heading over there, but we'll walk over the bridge. And I have a bit of an entrance, kind of like an Egyptian temple. I did add chisel and bits to the pack, so I have some angles and stuff that are not possible in the regular mod pack on Twitch. But yeah, so this is the main hallway. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. My main controller for the ME system is back here, and I'll go underneath and show all that. These are Futura blocks. These aren't actually controllers. This is the controller underneath, though. So yeah, just kind of like a throne room in this large hall. And this is all my power. Now, unfortunately, the turbines are a bit buggy. They are running, but the turbines themselves are not spinning, unfortunately. Alright, so this is my main ME system. This is where all my drives are. And over here, on this side, I ended up only doing 2 fusion reactors. I didn't build the 4 that I was originally thinking I would do. I ended up not really needing them because I automated most of the fluids that are needed in the fusion reactor. So this is a tier 3 or a Mark 3, and this is a Mark 1. And if we take a look on the inside, I have 32 channels. I'm going to the inputs and the outputs on the inside, but I have that kind of hidden. And they're all set up to different fluids, like these to produce neutronium, and these I can't remember all the different what they all produce. This one's mercury and gold, which produces radon, and this is radon, and I think gallium or something produces titanium or something. Alright, back here I have my mass fabricators and replicators. These are all breaking down. I have breaking down thorium and replicating neutronium dust, and I think I have 11 mass fabricators, or 11 replicators producing neutronium and like 16 or something mass fabricators. And this has a whole kind of production underneath, which I can quickly go into when I head down to my basement level. But before we go in there, let's just go in these side rooms, which are all my kind of automation rooms. I'll start with this one. This side I have my vacuum freezer producing or cooling ingots from the hot versions. Implosion compressor, which produces my iridium alloy plates. I have a multi-smelter, which smelts a bunch of my different dust to ingots and glass. Goes pretty fast. I have a couple of distillery towers. This one is distilling. All the inputs are in the back. This one is doing oils. I don't have them turned on right now, but this is distilling oil, so I'm getting heavy fuel and light fuel. And this one is distilling steam cracked light fuel, so I'm getting a whole bunch of different products, byproducts from that, and it has 12 different outputs here, but I do have it turned off. For now, I have a couple chemical reactors turning the sulfuric variants into the regular variants. And this is a cracking unit which turns the light fuel into steam cracked light fuel for my distillation tower. So these are kind of like a block here. Now, I'm not going to go over all my little machines, but most of these are all different processes. Like this is producing polyethylene. This one is producing tetrafluoroethylene. This one is kind of producing silicon. This turns into silicon, and so on and so forth. Polystyrene, styrene, butadiene, rubber. So yeah, those are all those. And each of these have a separate P2P tunnel for all the many channels that this system needs. And at the back, I have my 3 assembly lines, which produce the more difficult recipes. And I will show those when I go under to my basement level. And again, these are all just automated processes. I'm not going to go through every one of these. I go through these in depth in the episodes in the series. And I have all my blast furnaces. My electrical blast furnaces, I have 8 of them, and 4 of them running off of LUV power and 4 running off ultimate voltage. So the longer recipes, osmium and iridium and so on and so forth, are using these blast furnaces, and the not so fast ones are using those. And onto this side, kind of just quickly go over all my machines. They're generally kind of grouped together. These are fluid extractors, all my different stuff that's being melted down. We've got like liquid glass and helium, redstone, etc. on this side. And once again, these are all P2P tunnels with 32 channels. We've got fluid solidifiers and plate bending machines, sifters, etc. And as we can see, I have quite a lot of machines in here. Lots and lots of different processes, automations. All these level emitters are producing a amount of whatever is in them, and if it drops below this amount, it'll produce more. So I'm just keeping a lot of these stocked in my ME system. As we can see, they are all full and not producing. Most of these are for ultimate batteries, is the main reason I have stocked those. Alright, but anyway, this is my automation room, and I have put some, I will actually really quickly show what I did to. As we can see, I have no torches up there, but it's lit up. And the way I did this was actually with chisel and bits. I build up really quickly right here. I have part of the block is the sandstone, and then I've actually kind of hidden glowstone in the block as well using chisel and bits. So I'm actually getting a light source from that glowstone. But it's not using a full block of glowstone because I don't particularly like how glowstone looks. And I didn't search very hard for light sources, but I couldn't find any kind of good light sources in this mod pack. There just wasn't a huge variety that I liked, so I just kind of went with torches on the ground, and then on the walls I've kind of hidden some glowstone. But as we can see on this side, there's the glowstone kind of lighting up this room. But anyway, that is this level. We can go underneath. All my machines and most of my production is all up here. I do have some stuff underneath. A lot of cabling and stuff is all underneath. So if we go down here, I have over here, I have all my tanks, which have all my large amounts of fluids. So these are all from my distillation tower. I have 16 different fluids, toluene, butene, and all those. And a couple other ones, oxygen, hydrogen, sulfuric acid, just some fluids that I use a lot of, and these all have storage buses on them for when they're needed. Now underneath all my turbines, as we can see, this is a very long cable. I have 32 turbines, and they all come to this point, as we can see. So I have 32 channels, and this is spreading out to all the turbines, and these are all producing 1 LUV volts. It's going into a battery buffer, and this is outputting 1 volt of LUV. These are all set up to end up, I have 16 or 1 UV ultimate voltage going in this battery buffer, and I have 1 going into this one. Unfortunately, with the way the battery is kind of working, this one it's filling up with ultimate voltage, but it's also outputting 1, so it's actually not really filling up, unfortunately. But yeah, so these are kind of like my main, this is powering the whole base, these 2 battery buffers basically. So yeah, and then as we can see, I have the ultimate voltage, and I've colored my cables by voltage. So this is ludicrous voltage going in here, and then it's outputting ultimate voltage, and then these are being transformed down to ZPM voltage, which is being transformed down to LUV, IV, EV voltage, and so on and so forth. So that is basically how my entire base is being powered. And the colored cable helps me know which voltage is going through which wire, so I don't attach anything with the wrong voltage and cause explosions, because it has happened a few times and it's a big old pain. But all my machines, as we can see, are extreme voltage tier. So you can see by all my purple cable, all my automation is done as extreme voltage, and I found that was a decent a tier, since I'm producing with the amount of power I'm producing now. I felt that was a good tier versus speed. So they're overclocked a few times, most of the recipes. I have my 2 quantum rings. I have one over here, which does this side of the base for all my channels, and then I have another one on this side that does all the channels on this side. And I will show the heart of the ME system kind of last. Alright, so and these are all going to these are all P2P tunnels, and they're all going to the different groups, as we can see up here, or all the main ones under here are the P2P, and then it branches off into the 32 channels would be up top. At the back here, I have my assembly line, and still not entirely satisfied with how this ended up, but having the filters definitely helps. But it still needs a bit of fine-tuning for the assembly lines, but if you're interested in that, I do have quite a few episodes on figuring out the assembly line automation. And I have 3 of them. As you can see, these are all the different recipes that I have tried to automate with my assembly line. Moving on, this is all my mass fabricators and replicators, as we can see underneath. So this line, this huge line, are all my mass fabricators and replicators. Now these mass fabricators and replicators require 8 amps of power, so they required a bit of engineering to get that many amps going to 8 machines. So I would need 64 amps, which is why I'm using these 16 times Canthal wires. They hold 64 amps. So that's the only thing I could find or use that carries this much amps to them. But basically, as we can see, so from the main base over there, I have my orange ZPM, and it's being transformed down, and then part of it's going up to my fusion reactors, and part of it's coming over here into this, which is transforming the ludicrous voltage down into insane voltage, which is transforming it down into EV, which is going into, so I have 1 volt of LUV turning into 4 volts of IV, which is turning into 16 volts of EV, and that is transforming that down into, each of these turns into 16 HV. So in the end, I have 64 batteries of high voltage power, and then they are separated in the middle. So I have 2 kind of sets. So this is 64 amps, and that's 64 amps. And I have 4 sets. So this is another 64 and another 64. And then I just use the colored cables to separate the wires so nothing burns up. But yeah, so that is how that is powered. All right, and finally, I have a couple cables over here. This ME cable is actually what's powering those quantum rings. I have it attached, and it's actually not. It's just power. There's no channels running along those, just to power those. And if we over here, I am using a nuclear reactor, a nuclear craft reactor using MOX fuel to power my entire ME system. So that is producing that. It's going into these dense energy cells, which is powering my system. Now, as we can see, I have 3 quantum rings. This one here goes to the original base, but I only have a few cables going in there. And then I have the right side of my base comes into this one, and my left side of the base comes out of this one. And these are all the outputs of the P2P tunnels. So as we can see, lots and lots of channels going into the controller over here. And security terminal for my wireless. All right, but anyway, that is pretty much a tour. I was thinking about replacing torches and making this a little prettier down here, but in the end I decided I am not really going to spend much more time in this world. It's been a great world. I had tons of fun, but the pack has been updated to a new version, and with that, most of the pack has changed, so this is a pretty outdated pack now. So I wanted to finish this up and post a final base tour for everyone to see and wrap this series up. But yeah, it's been a great series. Definitely had a lot of fun. I think I got about 105 episodes out of it, so plenty of playtime. And I do want to check out the new version to see a lot of the changes. I know some mods have been removed and a lot of different stuff. So I am excited to change that. I check that out. I I'm not going to do a new series because right now I'm focused on Gregtech New Horizons is my Gregtech pack. But I will check that out. I may post just single episodes. You know, they might be 3 or 4 hours long. I might stream it a couple days a week. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with that. But yeah. So that is my GregBlock series. I hope everyone enjoyed it. It seems quite some good feedback on it. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. So with that, I'm going to say thanks for watching and have a good one.